Hey guys, welcome back to SLT Learning, and this is Ankit Prajapati, and today we're gonna cover another question on API testing and the rest assured side. So if you are preparing for the QA automation interview, I will suggest just go through our playlist. You will see the Selenium related questions, you will see the test engine related questions, you will see the Maba and Git related questions, and this specific playlist will be related with API and rest assured related question, because API is one of the crucial topic for any automation role nowadays. They will definitely ask you about the API experience and the API related questions, and these are the questions that we are preparing in our playlist. Those are the questions we get from the our candidate who appear in a real interviews, different big tech companies. Okay, so just go through those part and understand how you should answer, and with the syntax how you should answer this question in your interview. Okay, let's understand. Let's see what is we gonna cover today. So how do you validate data that written by the API and match with the data DB values? So over here it's kind of the backend testing, that API data you are getting and you are validating with the database value it is storing. Okay, so let's suppose if you are making a post call to create the user. Okay, so once user is created, then how you can validate if that user are created successfully in a database or not. So this kind of scenario we're gonna discuss today over here. Okay, so understand the expected data first. So where you need to start, understand the expected data. So in my interview I will just suggest, okay, to do these things first we need to understand the data, what exactly the data we need to validate in this particular way. So identify which API you are testing with the exact parameter and filter being sent. Know which tables and columns in the database is corresponding API response field are saved. So these two things you need to first understand. Okay, so understand the requirement. Again, the key things would be the requirement, which API we need to test and what exactly the parameter we are passing and what exactly the response we are getting from that. And for this API, which tables are involved, which columns are involved in the database, and which are the respective API fields that getting stored in a database table columns. Okay, so these things you need to understand. Then second, call the API and capture the response. So let's suppose I will call the API in a Postman or registration. You can use any automation tool and store that particular JSON file or XML response. So I will just say response is this one, given query parameter ID. So I'm getting the ID for this user 101. So over here I'm trying to fetch the user details with the ID 1101. Means this is kind of the query will be select star from user table where ID is equal to 101. Okay, so it will give the response. So all the response will be get stored over here. Then string API name will be request.json.get string and name. So name of the API you will get like this way. Whatever the response you will get, the API name you will get like this way. Okay guys, then fetch the data from the database. So once you will have this response over here, what you need to do to make the database connection in your automation code in your register sure, you can make these 3 lines and read the data from the database. Query only necessary field applying the same filter as the API request. So I will just use, you see, driver. So this is how you can create the connection with the database driver. So connection dot driver dot manager dot get connection db user username and password. Then statement. So first you need to define the statement, which exactly the statement you are going to pass. So statement is equal to connection dot create statement and result set. Over here you're going to set the result set is equal to statement dot execute query, execute the SQL query. As I told you, select name from users where ID is equal to 101. So over here you will see get name of ID. Over here you will get the API name. That means whatever the user name for 101 you will store over here, and over here it just says rx.next and string db name will be result set dot get string name. So over here this API we have the API name. So this is not API name, this is the name that we got for this user by passing this get call, and over here we got the name from the database for the user using the rs.getString. So we have two names, we have two parameters, API name and DB name. So call API, capture the response and fetch the data from the database, and then So use the assertion. This is the assertion we can use, test ng assertion or anything you can use. Assertion dot assert equal API norm dot trim and db name dot trim. So you can use the trim function to just remove the extra space if in case. Okay, and make sure you handle the data formatting in a different way as well, like decimals and the case sensitivity and all those things. Okay, but this is the key things. First, run the API call, store the API response, the name, or suppose you want to validate the city, then just says get string city. Over here you can just say rs.get string city. So you can also validate the city of the user, or the date of birth of the user, or the mobile number or email address of the user. Anything you can use, you can validate. First capture and store, then you can use assertion over here. Okay, like this way. Handle common challenges in this kind of scenarios. If you are working with a database, right, what kind of the common challenges you will face. So date format, so convert the both AP and DB date in a common format before comparison. Okay, so sometimes in a database it's stored in MMDD YY format, or sometimes in API it is giving you the response in a different format. So before comparing, before providing this assertion, okay, you just make sure you convert both the APIs or database response in the same format, then you can put the comparison. Okay, then decimal precision means, suppose in an API you are getting the 3 decimal value or 4 decimal value, but in database you will have a 2 decimal value. Then round off the same number and put the proper decimal logic before doing the any assertion. Okay, these are the things you need to do before performing the assertion between the API data and the database data. Okay, null versus empty, decide whether they should be treated as a equal or not. So this kind of API user requirement you should define in your API documentation. Then case sensitivity, convert both in a same case comparison if they are not related. So try to convert in a lower case or upper case if they are a string value, and then try to trim it to remove the extra space, and then try to compare it. So case sensitivity will be always there in terms of the string or the character values. Okay, so these are the common challenges to do the when you perform the testing between the API and the database value. Then automating in a framework, so you can just service layer, make API call and return the past data. Then DB layer, you can just say execute the query and return the result set as a map or list. And validate layer, you can loop through the key and compare the values. So you see API data, you can get all the API data for this get user. Then database, you can get the database value using, these are the functions, the user defined function you should create, and then just validate like this way, string key, string API key set, and perform the key set like assert equal to API data dot get key and database DB data dot get key, and you can just put like this way and try to put the assertion over here. Okay, so this is one of the way in automation framework you can do in a bulk. Service layer, you can make the API call, and database layer you can execute this query, and validation layer you can use the for loop to compare the key value pair over here, and then perform your automation testing for this kind of testing for API and database related testing. Okay, so now if they will ask you this question, right, how you can work on the database side with the API, you can answer like that way, and this is more than enough for you to do good in interview. Okay guys, so if you like this video, please subscribe to our channel, please share it with your colleagues who are preparing for the interviews guys, and again thanks for watching this video.